afternoon, everyone. We certainly appreciate you all letting us join you for the last hour of the day. As Wendy had said, my name is Mark Gallagher, and I'm with Eurowall, and I am joined by Bethany Ollison, who is our architectural rep for the state of Florida as well. And Bethany is going to be monitoring that question and answer box. So please feel free to answer or ask as many questions as you like, and we'll make sure we get them answered for you. So just real quick, a little bit about us. If you don't know about Eurowall, we are a Florida-based manufacturer located in Northport, Florida, which is halfway in between Sarasota and Fort Myers on the I-75 corridor there in West Florida. We've been around for almost 15 years. We started out as a manufacturer of bifolding doors for exterior units for the impact market, mainly residential. And what you're going to see is that we have added a bunch of products, whether they be sliding, pivoting, or stacking. And most of these, in fact, everything except for the stacking, does have Florida product approval. And ironically enough, since you guys just heard a seminar on acoustics, we have now tested everything for an acoustical rating as well. So we now have STC numbers. So for any of you that do any kind of interior projects, or you do need something with an STC sound transmission control, then we offer that as well. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to be presenting architectural trends for wind-borne areas. And obviously this is a AIA certified course. Anything that I or Bethany do say during this presentation is obviously not an endorsement from AIA. Again, more of the legal stuff that you guys have probably seen over and over today. So I apologize, I'm hitting you with it again. And what we're going to talk about today is we're going to give you guys an understanding of large operable solutions for wind-borne areas. We're going to provide some examples for large solutions for fenestration openings. That just means big moving glass walls. And hopefully we're going to give you some different terms for design, sustainability, and then health and safety as they pertain to these large operable walls. And then everything that I just said in nice little bullet points. Of course, if your screen looks like mine, the bullet points got all jumbled around. All right, objective number one, let's get you guys familiar with definition and capabilities of these large moving walls. And I always like to start with folding. As I said, we started off as a folding company, so it's just nice that we start here. And one of the reasons why I like to start here is because this kind of seems to always be the go-to for everyone. It's an easy thing. All the weight is contained within the plane of that opening. These panels are hinged to each other and they are attached at a jamb. They either stack interior or exterior of the unit. They do have a sill for water management if you are exposed to the elements. Now, there are some caveats to some of the rules that I just mentioned, and we'll talk about those. The thing that I like about our particular folding walls is that we manufacture some of the largest with a Florida product approval in the state. And we also manufacture some of the widest that we have product approval on. And when I say wide and tall, I'm talking about a unit. If you're in a wind zone 3 area, anything north of Broward County and Collier County on the West Coast and the Keys, we can go to 14 feet tall. We can do panel widths up to 52 inches. Now, if we are in an HVAC zone, we're going to be at 12 feet, which is still pretty darn tall. And then, of course, as they get up to these 12-foot heights or 14-foot heights, in order to maintain the design pressure, those panels do get a little bit narrower than the 52 inches that I had mentioned. And since I said design pressures, the design pressures on these are plus or minus 80. So these are wind excess tested to excess of 150 miles an hour. Obviously, different types of designs that can go on the folding doors that you're seeing here, muttons, architectural muttons. These are surface applied. They are not a true divided light. Again, with the folding, what you're doing is just connecting spaces. You can take a smaller space, connect it to a larger space. You can connect to a lanai, patio. I had told you guys that we had tested these things for STC. So our first round of testing, we had tested these to an STC rating of 35. So that's just, as you just learned from your class before, so anything of the sound rating it will reduce that by 35. Now we are getting ready to go back into the lab, and first quarter of this year will be in that low 40s. So in order to have a all aluminum system that meets an STC in the 42s is pretty amazing. But since we're talking about windborne, let's stay on topic more. So anyway, here you're seeing again just different applications, whether it's residential, hospitality. There are 3 different sills that you can choose from. There is a water rated sill, which is a high performance sill. It does meet 15 PSF of water. And then we do have a modified sill, which has no riser on it whatsoever. So if you do have a transition from one space to the other where you want a smooth transition without having to step over it, we do have that. And then we do have a true ADA sill as well for commercial applications. So here you're just kind of seeing how these operate. As I had mentioned earlier, they're hinged to each other. You're going to see there's a twin point locking handle that you're going to open, and that will allow the locking rods to disengage. If you have need for egress, there's a handle there so you can get in and out of that opening without having to open the entire unit. Now, one of the things that's nice is, if I can get it to change, we are the only company that I believe that I'm aware of that has, we've tested with a panic device. So if you've got a commercial application where you need to have a panic device, we've tested, so our FPA does include the panic device. And we can go up to 10 feet tall with that panic device. A lot of times what has happened in the past, especially with another manufacturer that I have worked for many years, we had to take the NOA or the product approval from the system and then take the hardware product approval, put them together with the building department and pray that they would allow it to go through. So now we're just taking that out of the equation. So now we'll actually ship the unit with the panic device. And so everything's prepped. All the locking rods are self-contained within the panel itself. You're not having to have any kind of surface supplied or aftermarket panic device. Closers as well. So if you're going to have a door at the jam and you do need to have a closer, not a problem. We can get that handled for you too. So here again, just connecting spaces, opening things up, allowing, especially in a hospitality situation, allowing for greater revenue streams by having larger selling space and things like that. Again, here retail, what you're going to see instead of the old pull down screen that we sometimes see, the ability to have the system that can quickly close down and open back up at a moment's notice. If you've ever used that roll down screen or if you've seen it in action, you know you have to go down to the floor level, lock it. What you're doing is you're putting yourself in a compromising position now because you're bent down and you're looking away from the actual opening. We've done a bunch of bank ATM vestibules and things like that. So now you're standing, you're going with the lock key, you're unlocking the system, standing up, looking around, opening things up, pulling retail racks out or opening the selling space in a matter of seconds. We do also offer forced AMA testing for breaking and entering. So if you do need to see that, we have that available as well. So everything has been tested to make sure that you cannot get in and out of these systems easily. Again, Bethany was nice enough to allow us to borrow a picture of her house. This is Bethany's beach house that she has here. Again, you're just seeing architectural muttons, the ability of taking a small space, opening it up and connecting it, making it seem much larger by opening it to the environment. Natural airflow, natural light, all these things. This was a project that we did, believe it or not, in Virginia. So what they had here, they had a storefront system with a single door, just on the one opening here on the left-hand side. Working with the architect, they knew they wanted to open the wall up, but the thing that came back is, which we hear all the time, how much is it going to cost and what's my return on investment going to be? So we had to understand the business. Since this is in Virginia, they get to utilize the space between 6 and 8 months out of the year. By opening it up, they were able to add about 9 tables to the exterior. Talking to the restaurateur, we understood that by adding these 9 tables, it garnished him almost $20,000 in revenue a month. So even at 6 months, he was going to have an extra $120,000 to his bottom line. So he saw the opportunity, how quickly these systems quickly paid for themselves. If you look down at the picture, you'll notice the smooth track. So that's what I was talking about, the smooth transition from inside to outside. You're not having to worry about stepping over anything. Patrons or staffs that are, walking in and out of that space don't have to worry about a tripping hazard. And again, this all meets the Florida product approval. Window units. We just actually developed a casement window, but up until that point, what we had was a folding unit. We would cut it down. Again, the ability to open up a space on a knee wall. This is on second grade, so the ability to open it to the outside, so that way you're not losing any of the space on the interior of the building. A radius system. We'll kind of dive into the radius system here in just a little bit. But what you're going to see here is a radius system. It can be as narrow as what you're seeing here, where it's very slight, or a pretty tight radius up to about 7.5 degrees. The tighter the radius, the more narrow the panels have to be in order to go around that opening. So again, this does meet FPA. The one thing that I do like about our radius system is if you've ever spec'd a folding wall with a radius system, it's a true segmented track. So what that means is the header and the sill are segment, almost like putting a puzzle together. So when you're installing it, you're putting the sill down piece by piece. You're drilling your holes, putting your fasteners in, and then you're having to mechanically seal each one of those joint lines. So we all know caulk looks great when it's first done, but 6 months later, it doesn't look so nice. And then it's a potential leak issue as well. We don't do that. So we actually send our header and our sill to a company in Texas that will bend it. Physically, we put it on a CNC bender, and that way we can bend that so it's one continuous sill and header that's going to go into that opening. Makes for a nicer, cleaner install, and then obviously water, which is something we worry about big time in Florida. Here's a radius system that's a little bit more pronounced, and you can see the panels are a lot more narrower there, and that's just in order to get around that bend. All right, so we kind of got through folding really quickly. We're going to kind of do a paradigm switch, and we're going to jump into multi-slide. You know, you heard me keep saying with folding, connecting spaces, taking a larger space, opening it, taking a smaller space, opening onto a larger area, whether it's a patio, lanai, and things like that. Well, multi-slide is really about when the system's not open. We know in Florida it's really, really hot. So there's maybe a few weeks out of the year that we can open things up. Last week, if you were in our neck of the woods in Sarasota, it was beautiful. It was a little chilly and it felt great. But here you now can do a panel, and you're going to find that we're pretty consistent. In a wind zone 3, we can go to 14 feet tall. And then in a HVAC wind zone 4, we can go to 12 feet tall. And nothing special about that when you think about a multi-slide or a sliding glass door system. But what the selling feature is the width of the panel. So in wind zone 3, we can do a 7-foot wide panel. HVAC, we can do a 5-foot wide panel, 60 inches. What's really cool is just say we're in Tampa and we're doing this project. This is overlooking Tampa Bay. That opening right there could be 14 by 14. You're only going to have a 2-panel. It can be an XO or OX. But that interlock now is only 15, 16, 7-inch. So now it's not about what you're looking at when you're looking at the door. It's being able to look through the glass and to see what's beyond it. So you're having very minimal frame with a lot of glass, a lot of what we call DLO, daylight opening. So crazy, crazy design pressures on this as well. You can have design pressures at plus or minus 120. These are up to wind speeds of 200 miles an hour. The sill on this is also can be up to 15 PSF, and we can bury this sill. So that way you've got a totally recessed sill, no sill riser, and still be able to hit those water ratings. Just like folding, if the design need calls for architectural muttons, we can do that. We can do everything from a traditional, 3/4 inch mutton all the way up to an 8-inch surface applied mutton. So a lot of function and ease of being able to change design in and out. For those of you that live in the Sarasota area, you may recognize this restaurant. This is Libby's in downtown, right off of 41. So what they've done here is they've taken the the sliding system, and they've connected to the patio out to the main street. They have about 10 tables on their patio to the left and about 8 on the right. But what they've done is they've recessed that sill. So that sill is completely recessed, still has a water rating, and can still meet ADA compliance. And I'll kind of dump into that here in just a little bit, because we can now put infill in between the track. So that way you get a true ADA compliance. So that way you have that smooth transition going in and out of the opening. The system can be corner. So you can have a cornerless system here. It can also be pocketed, so you get 100% use of the opening. Again, here's just a 3-panel opening up. So quickly that was sliding, and now we're going to jump into pivoting. Pivoting for us. Oh, and I didn't mention the STC rating, just if anybody's curious. It's similar to the. It's similar to the. Sorry, folks. It's similar to the STC rating on the folding door at 35, and then it will be in the low 40s as well. So pivoting for us, pivoting obviously started out as very much as a residential product. It is now probably about 25 to almost 30% of our sales have gone commercial, which is very interesting. Again, keeping things easy. Wind zone 3, 14 feet tall, HVAC 12 feet tall. We can go up to a 7-foot wide panel in Wind Zone 3 at 14 feet. So you're talking about a big opening. This is a statement piece. When this is the entrance going into the building, this is it right here. And then in Wind Zone 3, we can go 5 feet wide. The ability to have a full glass, to have obviously the architectural muttons here. We can go a complete, almost a wood look to this door, have a complete solid panel. There is still glass inside the frame because that is the structural component that was tested for this. This is a top supported system and there's no sill. So no sill means no water rating. So it's going to have an overhang as you see here. And the rule of thumb always applies with this. However tall the door is, we need to make sure that overhang is 1.5 times the height of the door. Now we know a lot of times this isn't always isn't easily accomplished, especially in a lot of the new design buildings where that overhang is sometimes second or third grade on the building. So we do have a solution to keep the water out. We'll touch on that in just a sec. Again, here you see multiple pivots in one area. This is a project in West Palm Beach where event space, they wanted to be able to get people in and out of that space quickly. This has design DP ratings of plus or minus 60. So strictly impact rating and wind rating only, no water rating. Interior spaces, again, this has turned out to be a neat product that we've done in libraries and schools and things like that. So, I just kind of want you guys to think outside the box. We don't always have to just do the exterior envelope. Objective 2, how can the glass solutions be used for sustainable design? So energy ratings, glass a lot of times gets a big knock that it's not the most energy efficient. But now the ability with low E coatings. So depending on where we are, since we're, this is a Florida AI event, obviously we worry about solar heat gain. So the ability to use an insulated impact product with a high performance low E, where we can get that solar heat gain down low, we can get that U factor down low, which is really important. But you'll see that solar heat gain, we can actually get it down to 0.23. So we can go a little bit lower than what was published here. And again, here's the sills that we were talking about. Here's the standard sill. What you're going to see here, it's 4.5 inches wide. So it's about a 2x4 that you're going to recess down. The ADA sill as well, the ability to go in and out of commercial spaces. The modified sill that I was talking about earlier that also offers a smooth transition looks just like the standard sill, except the sill riser is completely been removed. So you're looking at about a little over an inch that you'll have to recess that down. In order to have a smooth transition going from inside to out, Bethany and I are always, if you were to ask us in the beginning, we're going to ask you to, let's recess that sill down and make sure the finished floor is at 2.25. So that way there's a natural step down to the outside. The water is going to get wept out of the face of the opening, and that's how it's able to maintain that high water rating. Thermally broken products as well for energy efficiency. The sill for the multi-slide, this is it right here. You can do a 2-panel up to, a little over 4 inches. I was working with an architect yesterday on a 3-panel. It's going to be an OXX, and that was the question he came out, and I showed him it was a little over 6.5 inches. The little U sections that you see there, and you're probably looking at that wondering, hey, you told me I could use this in the ADA compliance, especially the restaurant at Libby's. So where that little U is, that's where your fasteners are going to go. And then there's a trim piece that's going to snap down in there. And that trim piece is made of polyamide. It's the same material that the thermal brake is made out of. So it's extremely strong, especially for cycle testing. The panels are going to ride on top of that. And then in between each of that, we can supply the aluminum, or what interior designers love. They love it because they can take the flooring, whether it's the tile, stone, concrete, whatever, and they can run it in between those in where those openings are. So that way the sill completely just disappears. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. Now, one of the things I do want to point out here is obviously the interlock. In order to hit that design pressure of plus or minus 120 and to hit, at 14 feet tall or 12 feet tall, I told you guys earlier, we're going to have 7 feet and 7 feet of glass with a small interlock of 15, 16, 7 inch. There is some heft when you're looking at it from the side. So one of the things is 4¼ inches. One of the things you're going to see from us coming out probably first quarter of 2025 is we're going to have different depths on the interlock. So depending on where you are in the state, depending on where your design pressure needs to be, we'll be able to cut that width on that interlock down. Great for window treatments and things like that. And then obviously not protruding into the building. We do offer a fixed window that can be used as a transom that looks exactly like this. If you're using a storefront system and you're used to, taking a unit, say 6 feet by 12 feet, 6 feet wide, 12 feet tall, 12 feet tall, you have to snap them together, storefront system. So then you're looking at your metal probably about 2½ inches. So now you can run a multiple run. WinZone 3, we can go up to 14 feet tall. We can go unlimited with panel lights at 48 inches, 4 feet. And then you can have a mullion in there that's going to be that. It's going to be an inch. So the ability to do that, so you can match transoms above this, or in the design intent. We just worked with an architect in Texas on the coast where they were going to try to take this restaurant 3/4 of the building, 3 sides were going to be glass. So he wanted multi-slide and then fixed lights. So we were able to offer this fixed light solution. So that way they couldn't tell, what was multi-slide and what was a fixed unit. So really gave the architect a lot of flexibility with their design. Let's get back to the sustainability with the different things. Obviously, solar heat gain is huge. Like I said, in the South, we have the appearance of color and reflectivity. For some of us that have been doing this for a while, like myself, we know that when low E coatings first came out, you only had one type. It was a hard coat low E, and it was on the exterior of the glass. It would scratch really easily. Dogs could scratch it off. Things from debris, yard debris from weed eaters getting thrown up there, and you were stuck with two colors, blue and green. Either had a Coke bottle or you had, something that looked blue. So now there's tons of opportunities with low E's where they're super high performance with really clear clarity. There's the manufacturer in Ocala that we all know and love. They just have a new glass that they just released that's very high performance and is crystal clear. Doesn't really have that much of a hue to it, which is really nice. Visible light transmitting is a big thing, especially if you're designing something on the coast. There is it's a federal statute called Turtle Code, that from Maine all the way around to Mexico, if you have a structure that is facing the water, you have to maintain what's called Turtle Code. So Turtle Code, only 0.41% of the light is allowed to come out of that opening. So you need to have a glass that's called Turtle Code that meets that. Exterior reflections, winter UV. What the winter UV is, we don't worry about it down here, but obviously as we're coming into the winter months, my son just moved to Minnesota, and because the sun is at a different height in the sky at that time of the year, it's the reflective, the way that the UV lights come down. So they want to actually maximize as much UV light as they can that will absorb into the window and radiate back into the structure to help heat that space. So that way the heater's not having to do so much work. In Florida, we want it to stay out. So we want it to reflect as much as possible and game out. So that's a summer UV. And then the solar heat gain, obviously, is the amount of heat that's radiated into the structure. And again, that's just kind of what I talked about. when we start talking about glass and where coatings are, in fact, that was one of the things I was working with this architect yesterday. They wanted on their east and west windows, they wanted to actually have a little bit more low E performance than what was on the north and south, and they wanted to know if they could have two low E coatings that wouldn't really change the appearance of the house. So we were working with the glass company so that way we can actually put a low E coating on surface 2 and then on surface 3. So surface 1 is the exterior to the outside. Surface 2 is that first layer. And then you have your either your airspace or your inner layer. And then the next piece of glass is surface 3. So the ability to be able to do that. So that way we can really customize and make sure we get that solar heat gain down really low. Again, the visible light transmittance, same thing. The ability to absorb light and push it back in. If you've ever walked down, I don't know if you've ever noticed it in your own home or a building, you know, during the day when the sun's shining on it, you can't see in the building. But at night, when there's light on the inside of the building, but it's dark outside, you can see in. And that's the visible light transmittance because of the reflective property of the glass. It allows it to absorb and radiate back. So at night, it radiates back inside, so you can see inside it. And during the day, it radiates and shoots it back out. So it's giving you that privacy. Again, exterior reflections, what I just mentioned. The view value, again, the ability to take that the UV rays and absorb it into the glass, not allow it to come into the structure down south and push it back out. But then obviously up north, we want it to come in and allow it to come into the building. And just everything what I just said. So a little redundant. Sorry about that. Provide solutions for how large openings can improve mental health and safety for the building occupants. So let's jump into that. So this is all about how are we affected by natural light? Case study. So we actually did a case study one time and we took an office and what we did is we made it seem like a nice July summer day in Florida. We pumped for a week. We pumped a lot of natural light in there and we measured them. And what we did is we did a sleep study on them. And what we found is that 87% of most people spend all their time indoors. So this is really important when you start thinking about design of a building on how much glass do you want to let in. So what we found is that people that are exposed to more natural light during the day, they actually get into a circadian rhythm quicker at night and they fall into a REM pattern faster. They get better sleep. For those of us that you've heard it, the winter doldrums, you know, especially up north, we then took an office and we made it seem like a Buffalo winter. For those of you, anybody on here from Buffalo, no offense, even though you guys just, that area of the country did just get pounded by 46 inches of snow last week. But what we found is that people that are exposed to more natural light, you'll see the blue lines here. They're more focused. They get more things done during the day. They can get their tasks done. They're able to retain information. And this is one of the things, if anybody's on here and you do design work for schools, this is where you're seeing a lot of bigger windows, a lot of large operable openings now in K through 12 and obviously higher education, because these studies that have been done that people that are exposed to more of this, they actually get more done and they can retain more. Education, I just mentioned that. You know, back when I went to school, we had these little bitty windows, looked like a jail cell. That's not the design now. When you see these schools, it's all large glass, large, allowing a lot of natural light in. And one of the reasons why, because they realize that these schools that do that, higher test scores. Higher test scores mean more funding for, you know, from the government. So that's nice. This picture, I thought we got rid of this picture, Bethany. I'm sorry. This was my third grade class picture. No, I'm just kidding. But this was something done back during the Spanish flu, this picture that was taken. And this came from a school district in Massachusetts, believe it or not. Madison, who puts our AIA presentations, found this and she started reading this. And what they found is by being able to open these spaces up, they knew that they were able to kind of flush the air out and get, you know, clean air in there. It wasn't stagnant air. So these kids weren't missing school as much, which was pretty cool. That way back then, 1919, they figured that out. Healthcare. I worked with a project in Atlanta. I know it's not a windborne area, but where it was a cancer treatment facility So the ability to, what they did is in these treatment rooms, they had a little 2-panel folding door in each area. So that way, and it overlooked a little pond. So as people were getting their treatment, they were able to open the space up on a nice day, get, nice air in there. It wasn't, stagnant treatment room. And the ability to, and what the director told us, there was no case study, there was no science backing this up, but she was told that after they had done the redesign of this space, that their patients said that after their treatments, they didn't suffer as much. And if you've ever had a family member that's gone through that, you know what I'm talking about. So shorter hospital stays. I talked about dining. I talked about that restaurateur that we worked with, opening the space up, increase revenue, increase profits. This is a project over in Stewart, where it's a crab house there right on the water. It's funny. Every time I travel, I always look for spaces. In fact, this architect group, after we got done, I took them to lunch. And of course, they wanted to go sit somewhere on the water. So, it's about connecting with the environment. Now, I'm going to set this up real quick. So retail, if you've heard my presentation, you've seen this before, so I apologize. This is one of my coworkers, Jordan. Jordan is about 6'5", and he is not the biggest, burliest guy, but he's wiry. And what he's going to operate here is a 14-foot tall folding system. But what I want you to really pay attention to is how easily he's operating this. This system is open 363 days a year. It's a 3-panel system, but what I really want to highlight is where the swing door is on a folding solution. So this is insulated impact glass, about 9 pounds per square foot. You see how easily he's able to close that. He's going to engage the twin point lock right there. So it throws the flush rods inside, and then a swing door in a commercial application on a folding door, 14 feet tall. It's not attached to the jamb, which a lot of manufacturers will insist on a commercial application that you have to apply it at the jamb. And when have you ever seen a swing door in a commercial application at 14 feet? Ever. But now in the state of Florida, we do it all day long. So this has been installed for about 26 months now. As I said, it's open 365. It is not the egress point. So I do want to clarify that. Just to the left of Jordan's elbow there on that other right, there's a column there. There is a storefront door there that they utilize. So this is when they open it, they leave it open, and at night they close it down. Office space, especially now coming out of COVID and everybody's coming back to work, the ability to just collaborate again, especially in what we all do in spaces, doing lunch and learns, working on projects and things like that, the ability to bring in natural light, or when we need to have a breakout space to close spaces off quickly. Safety, I talked about the Force AMA testing. So everything we glaze with is a 1/4 inch. So it's quarter over quarter with an 090 SGP. We do not use PVB. We only use Century Glass Plus. So the Force AMA testing makes it really difficult to get into with that SGP interlayer. The testing that we do, if you've never been to the lab, obviously HVAC, that gets fired 4 spots on the glass, 4 spots on the frame, wind zone 3. It's done 3 and 3. We are hearing some rumblings that when the next building codes come down, that they are going to make the entire coast from Maine to Mexico HVAC. And it makes sense because of what we've seen, especially, last year going into the elbow up around Apalachicola. Obviously, the Panhandle gets hit all the time, the Carolinas. So stay tuned for that. As we do hear more, we will share that with you all. But we're not worried about it because we're already tested HVAC at probably some of the largest sizes there are, so which is really nice. And after we've beaten it up, this is what it looks like. So when you know that something's been tested for HVAC or wind zone 3, you know that it's gone through a war. Doing all the traveling that I do, and I travel around the country, I don't know if you guys have ever been asked or gotten hit with seismic. Is this seismic compliant? So out in California, they will actually take a Florida product approval and they will allow it to fly for seismic testing because the Florida product testing is more stringent than seismic. So just something to keep in the back of your hat. The panic devices, the ability to get in and out of spaces, as I'd mentioned earlier, this is something that is already on the product approval, so you don't have to worry about it. Smart locks, different types of smart locks that are available. We're not a hardware provider, but we will work with access control companies. This is really big, both residential and commercial, the ability to get in and out of spaces, whether it's through a key fob, card reader. We'll prep the panels and make sure that everything's ready to go before it leaves our place. So that way, when the access control people come in, they're ready to go. Automation, we can actually automate the sliding door. So with the push of a button, whether it's on your app on your phone, the button on the wall, remote control, the ability to open a space up and go in and out. So the two systems right now that can be automated are sliding, the multi-slide, and the pivot system. Here's an interior application. I know we're in Windbone area, but I do want you to see real quickly the ability of how wide these panels are, minimal track. This is a clad system that's clad on both the interior and exterior of that opening. For an exterior opening, we can do a wood clad on the interior only. We can do a faux wood finish on the exterior. The wood that we offer for the interior, that's standard, is a white oak and a sapelli mahogany. Both all the same price. But if you do have another wood that you're interested in, as long as it's a sustainable species, not a problem, we can get it for you. And you can see how quickly he's closing that down and how wide those panels are. This is a unique product. So the pivot door that they use on the interior, this is up in New Jersey. So this particular setup, what they did is going into the employee lounge here. This gentleman's about to go through a door that's 11 feet tall, a little over 6 feet wide. They paired this space with an overhead door. So that way on nice days, they can open this space up. And this always makes my coworker Wade angry when I say this because he's from New Jersey. But there's not that many nice days, so they don't get to open it very often. But I just do that just to goad them. But you'll see here how quickly he goes through this, pushes it open, steps. There's nothing to step over. Door sets open, and away he goes. So we are taking this back into the lab this year. We are going to offer this with a sill and a drop sill. So that way you will have a water rating with this now, coming out probably about summer of 2025. Here's a pivot door. Again, that's 3-in-1 frame. We can do this on the interior only. We will probably test this once we get the sill, we'll test a pivot left, pivot right. So that way you can have a really massive opening. Split height configurations, the ability to take a folding unit and have a bar top that is married to a walk-through unit. When that opens up, there's no structure. That meets all the air and water requirements that the FPA calls for. So the ability to take indoor-outdoor kitchens, hospitality. We just did a space that has a 20-foot run on the bar, so you can get about, they've got about six chairs there, and then it actually turns the corner, so it's a 90-degree, and then you have the egress door going from the restaurant out to the patio. So a lot of functionality. Here's that tall guy again, and we get asked all the time about. You guys are a Florida-based product. So if you are working on projects up north, one of the first projects I ever worked on with this company when they first got started 14 years ago was a marina in Rhode Island. So no issues with dealing with cold weather and the ability to have large pieces of glass. A couple things real quick. Because we are a Florida-based manufacturer, everything that we do, a standard paint finish, is a 2605. It's a Kynar. I know what you're probably thinking. Holy smokes, these systems can already be expensive as they are. And now you guys are telling me everything standard is Kynar. White, black, bronze, Arcadia silver, and then clear anodized. The 2605 4 paint colors, it's a 10-year coastal warranty. Doesn't matter who installs it. If you have need for a custom color, we can, if you got Barney purple, we can do that. All stainless steel hardware, hinges, fasteners, handles, everything is stainless steel. You don't have to ask for a coastal package. Cost-wise, I know I'm getting up on my time, but cost-wise is if you're looking at say a folding unit at 10 feet tall, insulated impact, you're probably looking at about $1,500 a linear foot. Sliding system's probably going to be a little bit less. It's probably going to be about $1,300 a linear foot. Monolithic glass is going to be a lot less. You're probably looking at, about $1,100 to $1,200 a linear foot. Acoustically rated glass, if you've ever dealt with some of the other folks, those prices can be anywhere from $2,500 to $3,000 a linear foot. You're probably looking at about $1,700 a linear foot. 10-year warranty on everything, not only just the finish, but the hardware, the glass. We have all kinds of stuff to support you all. We've got Revit files, CAD files, BIM files, specs that we can generate for you all that can be project specific. If you need budget pricing, we offer budget pricing, so that way you can kind of see if this is within your client's pain threshold. And that way we're not having to, you kind of know where it's coming from. We can offer the drawings and whole unit drawings, so that way they're easy to go. So I do appreciate everybody's time, and if we have any questions, Wendy, do you want to open it up for questions, or has Bethany? I haven't been able to see as Bethany's been able to answer them.
I think that she's taking care of them, and yeah, you do have some extra time. I think you're supposed to go to 4:30.
Oh my gosh, I went really fast. I apologize. I haven't slept much. I've been dealing with a family situation, and so I do apologize with that. I didn't think I was going to be with you all today, and I was able to break away and come hang out with you all. But so one of the things that we do have is our casement windows. I started talking about it earlier. So we now have a new casement window that has Florida product approval that can go up to 10 feet tall for wind zone 3, and then for HVAC we can go to 10 feet tall. So as well, but we can go really wide, and these have design pressures at plus or minus 65. We can do multiple runs. You can have 10 casements in a run. We have a system called a multi-link where these things will link together. It's a push-out casement that has 2 different types of hardware. It's a thermally broken system as well. We have, as I mentioned, the fixed set. It's called a direct set system that can go up to 14 feet tall for a single unit, at 7 feet wide for a fixed piece of glass. And then for multi-link in HVAC, we can go up to 12 feet tall and 4 feet wide per light, with the mul bar only being 1 inch thick. So you're going to have multiple lights. These systems can be, they are a dry glaze system. So they can be, if there's any kind of maintenance that needs to happen in the field, we can do that. And one of the things that we're really excited about that's getting ready to come out is a direct set. So direct set butt glaze. So it's a butt glaze system that's frameless. So the ability to have a monolithic piece of glass for a large opening with no metal, to have multiple lights that can again be 4 feet wide and up to 12 feet tall. And it's a triple laminate. So it's going to be triple laminate with an 090 SGP. Again, the wind zones on the design pressures on that are plus or minus 70. So some crazy design pressures that we've done. One of the things that I did not mention, I told you there was a caveat, and I apologize. My brain is a little fried right now. But going back to folding, and I apologize for bringing you all the way back there. I had told you guys that folding is hinged to each other and then hinged at a jamb. And it kind of, when you think about it, I always describe it as a train. When a train starts to move down the track, it pulls the other panels with it. Well, now we have the ability to meet a Florida product approval where we can have that door at the jamb. So if you are doing a commercial application and you need panic enclosure, or if you're designing a residential application and you're in your kitchen and you want that door to open to the outside to go out to your lanai, but you don't want those other panels to go the other way. So say you're doing a 20-foot opening and you design it with 5 panels. So that so from the outside looking in, panel 1 is your swing door. Before, all 4 other panels had to go back to the opposite jamb, and it always drove designers crazy because they wanted that stack to be on one plane, one side. So now you can have that door at the jamb. and you can open it up. And instead of those other panels going back to that opposite jamb, they are hinged to each other, but they're not attached at that jamb, so they float. So now you can push them back, and you can now open them and stack them on that egress door. Or if you needed to have two swing doors, you needed to have a swing door left or a swing door right, and then you had a bunch of panels in the middle, not a problem. So if you had a door going, we just did a restaurant in Winter Garden up in Orlando where they went out to a patio. They had one door had a panic device, the other door just had a regular multi-point handle, and they both would open outside, but then they had these panels in the middle. Well, now when they want to open the whole system up on Tuesday, they can stack all those panels in the middle to the right, or on Friday, they can bring them back to the left. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, especially with interior spaces. If you're doing a conference room where you need to have two egress doors for a large room, but then you want to make it into two smaller rooms. So you bring a T-section folding door down right in the middle. You now have two doors going in and out of separate conference rooms. So it gives you a lot of flexibility and a lot of function there as well. So we're trying to innovate, trying to keep things going and keep it fresh and go. So that's it, Wendy. I do apologize that I didn't go to 4:30. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I'm a little, I don't know if you heard what happened, but there's some stuff going on, so I apologize for that.
Yeah, I understand. I think there is one question that was posted.
Yeah. Let's see if I can see it.
So it looks like Bethany is starting to answer it about breakaway doors for emergency exiting. Is there an option for that?
So there is with the panic device. So on the folding only, and that is the only system that does have the breakaway door. So you can have that one door that is single operator and is not dependent on the other panels. That panel can be a breakaway door and can open up and meets Florida product approval.
Okay, and then I'm not sure if you covered this, it came in the chat, but it was talking about asking what is a good middle point for U value and shading coefficient for glass speciation.
So a good middle point is right around probably point for solar heat gain is probably right around 0.28 to 2.7 is typically what we see, and that can be achieved with just a regular Lowy clear coating, whether it's a Solar Band product or a Lowy 366 from Cardinal. That can be
Yeah, okay. Well, you made it through almost the whole time, but you're breaking up now. So I don't know if Mark, we're not able to hear you. I think you're breaking up now.
I can possibly take over for him if needed. Mark, can you hear us? Hello?
shading coefficient on that.
Yeah, I'm afraid he can't hear us very well either.
Yep, we just lost him.
Okay, yeah, that was expected.
I do apologize, but a good middle point for U value. I'm not sure exactly how to answer that one, but I can definitely get some U values on any of the low E's or tints, John, that you're using. You can more than welcome to share that information with me so I can get you an answer. I don't know if there's necessarily a good middle point. Unfortunately, Mark not being on here, he may have had a better answer for you.